Good morning. Welcome to MC School's YouTube channel. My name is Miss Triplet, and I am a fifth grade teacher at Barkdale Falk Elementary. Today, we're going to go over some reading comprehension skills. We're going to talk about what does it mean to comprehend. We're going to discuss how are you supposed to read and remember what you read. Oftentimes, many people will read a story, and when they get to the end of the story, they're like, well, what did I read? I don't remember what this is about. How do I answer questions? So today we're just going to go through a few suggestions and a few strategies that you can use to improve your reading comprehension. So starting off, what does it mean to comprehend? So what does it mean? If you comprehend, that means you are understanding. So when you add reading in front of comprehension, that means you are reading with an understanding. So you're reading, you're understanding who did something. You're understanding what did they do. You're understanding why they did it. So you're understanding everything that the author has intended for you to get. And sometimes you'll understand things that the author didn't intend for you to get, because that's what reading does. It teaches you things that nobody planned for you to learn. So a quick tip. Taking notes while you read will aid in your understanding and recalling events that take place in the text. So how many times have we watched those TV shows where people are doing interviews? Do those people just listen and then recall what they heard, or do those people take notes? Those people typically take notes. So if you're interviewing somebody, it's just like they're reading to you. You're reading a story. So as you read, if you take notes, that will help you to remember at the end everything that comes together. Because in a story, we know that there can be many plot twists, there can be many conflicts, there can be many things that happen. So if you take notes, it will help you to bring all those things together once you finish. So how can I improve my understanding as I read? So as I mentioned, you can take notes. You see the pictures. So when people write, they write so vividly, or they should write so vividly, that you can picture what's happening. So you see those pictures. You ask questions. So life is about asking questions and finding answers. That's the way we learn. That's the way we figure out everything. We ask questions. So you do the same while you're reading. Take notes. Look up vocabulary. So if someone is speaking using words that you don't know, it's not that you don't understand what they're saying, you don't understand the vocabulary. So if you look up the vocabulary words, then you can easily understand what is being said. Make inferences. We'll go in depth on that one. And understand the lesson in the story. So each time we read something, we should be learning something. So there's the lesson. When you read, there's a lesson at the end of the story that you can say, I could probably apply that to my real life, or that character shouldn't have done that, so maybe I shouldn't do that. So you want to learn the lesson as you read. So see the pictures. There is this thing called imagery. Writers use imagery to help readers see what's going on in the text. So as we read, we see descriptions, we see images, we see pictures. This is called imagery. Imagery just means picture. So imagery is where the author says, I'm going to make everything known to their five senses. I'm going to describe how it smells. I'm going to describe how it looks. I'm going to describe how it tastes. I'm going to describe how it sounds. And I'm going to describe how it feels. And that's going to help the reader to picture what I'm saying. I saw it, so I'm going to write the story. But when someone reads the story, how are they going to understand what I saw if I don't describe it vividly using imagery, which is just painting pictures? So authors paint pictures as they write, and we should be able to imagine as we're reading what's happening. So a quick tip. You have to use your imagination to create images in your mind. So if we look at the word imagery, we look at the word imagination, we look at the word images. Okay. We look at imagery, we look at imagination, we look at images. We notice the word image. Image just means picture. So those roots will help you to understand what each of those words mean. It'll help you remember that. Imagery means to see the pictures. All right, so example of imagery. So these are two different texts. You have two different pineapples. So this author said, the pineapple sat on the table. That's super boring. What does that tell us about the pineapple? It doesn't make me want to eat the pineapple. It doesn't make me even wonder about the pineapple. It's just, okay, the pineapple's on the table. But here we have this example. The lively green and golden pineapple with a fountain of lush, lovely leaves sat on the table begging to be eaten. So this author wrote this beautifully. They used words that are descriptive. They painted a picture so that I could clearly see this pineapple. So that pineapple is clearly more enticing than this pineapple. So we asked questions. We asked questions such as who, what, when, where, how, and most importantly, we ask why. So if your girlfriend or if your boyfriend is giving you the tea, you want to know what's going on. You want to know what happened. Girl, why they do that? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Girl, who did that? So you want to know everything. So reading is the very same way. As you read, you want to know who did it. Who are the characters? What is their motivation? What did they do? When did this all happen? Time frame tells us a lot. If a story is set in the 1800s, it would be very, very different than a story that's set in the future in 2060. So there are some things that are going to shift as time moves, and understanding time and the when will definitely help you to understand character motivation. It will definitely help you to understand why the author may use certain words. We know that words that we used when we were kids are not the words that you guys use now. When I was a kid, we used to say that stuff was the bomb. So now y'all say other stuff. Y'all say it's lit and all this stuff. So if you follow the pattern of time, then you'll understand why certain things are done. Also, where a story that is written in France would be much different than a story that is written using a space setting. So a story that is written for a church setting may be much different than a story that is written for a school setting. So setting is the where. It determines a lot of things that go on in the story. And how? How did this person do that? So how sometimes gets a little harder because you have to read in between the lines. You have to make those inferences that we saw on the other slide that we'll get to. And why? Why also requires an inference. Why did this character do that? Why did this person do this? Why did the author decide to make this choice? Why did the author use that word? Why did the author choose this setting? So why is one of those words that we consistently should ask ourselves as we're reading. Take notes. Take notes. This goes back to what I said when we first opened up. You want to always take notes. If you're interviewing somebody, you can't remember every single thing that they said as you're listening to them. So you want to take notes. Reading a book is just like doing an interview. You're trying to answer those questions. So as you come across answers to those questions, the who questions, write it down. Well, who went to the store? Jake went to the store. Let me write this down just in case 5 other people go to the store and I need to remember each person that went to the store. So taking notes as you read is very helpful in helping you to understand everything that's coming together once you finish reading the story. If you look here, you will see that we use sticky notes, we use post-it notes. Sometimes you can write in the book. If you have a Monroe City school book and it is not yours, please don't write in the book with a pen. You may use a pencil, but make sure that you are keeping track. If you have your student workbooks that are handed out to you, those are yours. You can highlight, you can write, you can make reasoning deductions in the line. You can do anything that you need to do on that paper that's going to help you become a better reader, that's going to help you remember what you read. All right, look up words that you don't know. So vocabulary is a very, very, very important issue. The more words that you know, the better equipped that you will be to answer questions, the better equipped that you will be to understand future things, the better you can express yourself. So anytime you come across a word in a story that you don't know, that prohibits you from understanding the true meaning of what's going on in the story. So stop, take a second, use a dictionary. You guys have your phones at home, you have Google. All you have to do is type in that word or look it up in the dictionary and it'll tell you what it means. It will also give you synonyms, antonyms, and it helps you to broaden your vocabulary. Also, most importantly, it will help you understand what it is that you're reading. The biggest part of reading comprehension that prohibits students from understanding or that prohibits you from understanding what you're reading is not knowing the vocabulary. So take a minute. We have all this time now. You're not stuck in a desk. You're not stuck in a classroom. You have all this time at home. So you can take a few seconds to look up a word and see what it means. So now we're back to making an inference. I've mentioned making inferences a few times throughout this class, and now we're going to talk about exactly what does it mean. So what does it mean to make an inference? To make an inference, you use what you know to figure out what you don't know. It's really simple. We all do it every day. If we walk outside and it's cloudy outside, we all make the inference, it'll probably rain today. That's an inference. You use what you know. I know that clouds mean rain. I know that when the sun is not out, it's possibly going to be bad weather. So we use what we know to figure out what we don't know. We don't know that it's going to rain. The news people may tell us that it's going to rain, but it's because they've made an inference. They've studied the maps. They studied the atmosphere. They studied what's going on outside to be able to tell us that, okay, it's favorable for rain today. So to make an inference, you're using what you know from the text to help you make good guesses of what could be possible. The only guess that is supported by text is a good inference. So if you make an inference based on what you want it to happen, that's not a good inference. If you make an inference on what the character should have done, that's not a good inference. Good inferences are based on what we've seen in the text. So if Lil Johnny woke up and Lil Johnny said, I am so hungry, I should probably fix me some breakfast, and Lil Johnny sat in his bed and he dreamed about what he was going to get up and eat, then it's a good inference to say that Lil Johnny is probably going to get up and fix him something to eat. It's not a good inference to assume that Lil Johnny is just going to go straight outside to play. You have to use what you were given in the text in order to make guesses about what could possibly happen. So sometimes we have to make inferences and we never find out what really happens. You have to support your ideas or your claims using the evidence from the text. So figure out the lesson. This one is where you've read everything, you figured out the who, you figured out the what, and now you want to know, what was I supposed to get from that story? Sometimes we read stories and characters go through so many conflicts, characters go through so many issues, they learn things, they interact with each other. So why did the author write all of that? It was for you to learn something. Every time you open a book, you should learn something. So sometimes the lesson is spelled out for you and it's really simple, is don't judge others. Always try your best. It's some of those things that we always talk about, but sometimes the thing that you're going to get is just going to be something that applies to just you. So the important thing here again is to remember that you have to support whatever conclusion that you come up with evidence from the text. So as you are reading a text, you should put all of these steps that we just covered together. So I know that it seemed like a lot, but if you're reading, then you can start with just the first one. You can start with just asking those questions. Who did this? How did they do it? What did they do? That is simple comprehension. That is understanding what happened in the text as you are reading. So let's practice. So as you read, remember these steps. Try to see the pictures. Try to see what's going on. Try to imagine. Try to see those images. Ask questions. Ask yourself, why did the author do this? Who are they talking about? What character does this? Where did they do this at? What time of the day was this? Where was this located? Take notes. As you figure out the answers to those questions, just scribble them down. You can scribble them down on a sheet of paper. Know that these notes are for you. So however you decide to keep those notes, make sure that you can understand them. Look up the vocabulary. If there's a word in here that you don't know, take a second. Look it up. Make inferences. As you read, try to guess what's happening. If you are trying to guess what's going on, that means that you are engaged. That means that your mind is committed to understanding the story. And that's what it takes to be a good reader, commitment. You have to commit to, I'm going to read this story and I'm going to understand it. And then you want to understand the lesson. So understanding the lesson is a little bit harder. This is a 5th grade lesson. So by 5th grade, you should be able to guess the lesson, which is also called the theme. So let's practice. So this is a lot of text, so take just a few moments to read it. If you need to, you can pause this video to read everything that you need to do. And remember that we are doing those steps as we read. So now that you've paused the video and you've read the text, I want you to follow these steps here. using only your notes. So using only the notes that you took and using only what you could remember from the story. I want you to address these bullet points. I want you to tell me, what objects and pictures do you remember from the text? Do you only remember the cloud? Do you remember the people? Do you remember what the cloud looked like? So I want you to tell me, what objects and pictures do you remember from the text? I want you to answer those who questions. Who was all in the story? What was going on? When did all of this happen? Where were they? How did this stuff happen? How did the people feel? How did the people respond? How did the cloud respond? And then tell me why. Why do you think those people did those things? Why do you think the author wrote the story in the way that he did? What lesson was he possibly trying to teach you? What words did you stop to look up? So I know that myself, reading this text, there were a few words I said, maybe I should look that up. There were a few words that I noticed my students would definitely need to look these words up. So did you stop to get a dictionary and look up those words that you did not know? Did you try to use a synonym to substitute in so that you could get a better understanding of the text? Make an inference. How do you think the cloud felt right before sinking low to earth? So this is an inference that you'll need to make. An inference means that it was not stated directly in the text, but you have to use what the text said to come to a conclusion on your own. And what did you learn from the story? This is our theme. What did you gather from the story? What's going on? What did you learn? How can you apply whatever it was to your real life? So each time that you read, you should practice these steps. The more you do it, the better you'll become at it, the more natural it'll become. You won't have to say, oh, did I take notes? Or, oh, I should have asked myself those questions. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it.